You know you can get up to 82,000 Canadian dollars from Canadian government for doing nothing. Yes, I am talking about refugees. If you become refugee in Canada, they will pay you up to $224 per day. That is $140 for accommodation and around $84 for food, and that too a tax-free. So it means around $82,000 a year. It looks like a paid vacation to me, or it looks like free money to me. And in addition to this, an average Canadian earns up to 63,000 Canadian dollars in a year, and he pays over 20% in taxes. Then if he buys something, he has to pay 15% again. Although refugee has to pay that, and there are a lot other things that Canadian has to suffer. So become a refugee in Canada and get up to $82,000 free for a whole year.
Well, guys, welcome to the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagai. Yes, that is a video put out by a refugee. Canada is so broken. We got kind of a different bit of a show here for you today. I'm definitely going to cut into some news articles that are going on here. I just kind of want to start it off. There is... So... For my regular viewers, my subscribers, you've obviously seen the video and know I've actually reported on it a few times about, and this is just one of the things I talk about with the fascist government. They're trying to pass legislation, and this is carried on from Trudeau to Carney, and they're trying to, it's the same party, right? It's the same party. So they're trying to pass this legislation about pulling non-charitable status from churches because they go against the undignified morality, moral code, the pungent, nasty socialist ideology that you have to believe what the government believes, or they'll crucify you. They'll take everything they can from you until you give in. Now they're doing this with religion. So anybody who's pro-life is going to lose their charitable status. And then from there, they're going to start taxing churches. Because if the church doesn't believe that, you know, you have the right to end a child's life, which personally I'm a libertarian, I don't care. It's your choice. It's your body. I shouldn't have a choice on it, but I should have a choice on what my tax dollars are paying for. I'm a taxpayer, so that's kind of a libertarian rule. Anyways, they're just going to tax the churches. Well, there's a video coming out, and I'm so glad this came out because I knew this was kind of going on. And through doing a bunch of different research, I was trying to find the right kind of interview. And lo and behold, I found it. So I'm going to play it for you. And welcome to fascist Canada.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau introduced legislation to legalize physician-assisted suicide.
It's a deeply personal issue that affects all of us in our families.
Unbelief, it is their only option.
No one should be faced with such an impossible choice.
Canada first introduced medical assistance in dying, or MAID, where medics can help people end their life, in 2016. At the time, it was only open to those whose natural death was reasonably foreseeable.
Last year, MAID accounted for 3.3% of all deaths in Canada, or 10,064 people. That's a 32.4% increase over the year before.
Opponents of MAID argue it's being used as an alternative to social or medical support. Ramona Coelho, a family doctor, says it's far quicker to get aid in dying than specialist care.
Mother of 3, Rose Finley, is applying for a medically assisted death. She filled out the forms and is counting down to the day she can access MAID. But what Finley says she really wants is access to services.
It's always been a challenge to find adequate personal care support.
The fact that people are feeling compelled to apply for MAID or to even ask about MAID because they can't get the basic fundamentals to live a life it's shameful.
In March, it's further expanding eligibility to include people with mental disorders. It's expected MAID will be about 4% of all deaths in this country.
When people have suicidal ideations, we used to meet them with counseling and care. And yet now we are seeing that as an appropriate request to die and ending their lives very quickly.
It sends a culturally and socially acceptable message that suicide is one option to end one's suffering, and that is contrary to our message that we're sending to our youth.
It seems to me that offering death to people in the moments of greatest vulnerability, fragility, is profoundly unethical. I have a patient, I'm in the middle of treatment, the middle of medication trials, and the family doctor came along and kindly, from her perspective, offered MAID. The patient said, yeah, why don't I just die?
Okay, so this is a big thing. Now, once again, I'm a libertarian, and I remember I was young, and yeah, I've been a libertarian my whole life. I study history and propaganda, and through it I learned that freedom and equality are the two basic structures needed in order to have the closest thing a person could ever get to a perfect society, and we're far from that, let me tell you. Now, whether or not you want to end your life, I mean, since Kevorkian, I mean, that was a big thing, and everybody wanted to, crucify the poor guy. When he was allowing people to have their freedom. The government wants to own every aspect of you. You are a slave, period. And now we have a government, this new liberal party, who, and personally the MAID I thought was, hey, it's about time. They should just legislate and say you have the right to do that. That's it. That's as far as the government needs to go with that. And then, of course, monitor through health organizations to make sure that it's not painful, and to try and do what the government's supposed to do, which is give help. Instead, we have a fascist government. And what they're doing is they are doing the opposite. They are causing so much chaos, and this is why I started off with that perfect video from the immigrant telling his friends and buddies, hey, come on over here, man, look at the Canadians. They make like very little and pay all this tax, and we make way more money and no tax. Man, this is great. Come for a year on a holiday, and then you get your Canadian citizenship maybe, and you leave. So too easy. Well, this is causing chaos. This is why we have our medical systems falling apart. That and the lack of funding, because Canada's broke, because we waste our money on stupid shit, like, every other country except for our own. And green agendas and DEI, DIE, like it actually should be DIE, because that's what it is. The kicker to this is that how deep it really goes. So I've already exposed how on a few episodes I've shown clips where people have come out and said, and we've had a lot of this has happened in the military, where the one lady, she had lost her leg and then ended up paraplegic, and she's been waiting for 10 years to get a suitable ramp or an elevator built so she could at least get in and out of her house easily. Nothing. She gets no support. And in the meantime, while the government's cutting funding and just beating the crap out of our military with wokeism, and real Canadians are fleeing. They're like leaving the military. Nobody wants to join that crap. Who's going to fight beside somebody you can't trust? Too busy painting their hair purple, talking about a whatever. It's just silliness. Anyways, you get past all of that, and they've crushed our system. So what they're doing is they're purposely, this is done purposely, people, because there's no way that anybody in their right mind would think that offering somebody the ability to remove yourself because you live in a socialist system where your health care either A, doesn't give you that type of medication because, sorry, the government doesn't have that, and they don't believe in that, and they're not going to pay that for you. B, they don't offer the types of operations and surgeries because, well, sorry, we're not set up for that. We don't believe in that, and we're not going to pay for that. And then you get, C, where they say, well, you can go out of country, but we're only going to pay for X amount. That's if you qualify, which I know so many people that have never been reimbursed, gone out of country, mortgaged their house. One person, sold their house because they lost it. They mortgaged it, hoping the government would come through. They never came through. And then you get the others who don't have anything. They have nothing. They don't even have the ability to leave to go get a surgery or try and find money or get a loan and their system's broken. And they want to live. They have it in them to live. They just need an operation, or they need a chairlift, or ramp, a prosthetic, a surgery, something. But our system is so broken. Canada is so broke. We spend so much money on other countries. Sex changes overseas. Beaches that need to have DEI, send 10 million there. Yeah, they can clean a beach, but we're going to give them the 10 million, so we have to make sure that they have X amount of queer, gay, les, instead of, well, first come, first serve, whoever gets the job applies. How about the best person, the best resume? No, our government's wasting our money. So now we have this broken system. Well, this is where you get to see just how evil they really are. Where are you going with this, Alias? This is where I'm going with this. Now, listen very carefully. This is fascism. Full-fledged, 100% fascism.
When I watched that montage of news coming from Canada, and obviously there's some pushback from different people, it almost feels like your government is giddy about rushing in where anyone might have a weak moment and think about committing suicide. They want to be there to get it done before you think twice, before you have a moment to back out. Am I overstating that?
No, you're not. This is the Canadian cull. That's what this is.
Culling.
Yes, culling. Listen, MAID is actually an amendment to the Criminal Code of Canada that says that doctors and nurse practitioners can non-culpably homicide their patients, period.
They can homicide their patient.
Non-culpably homicide.
Wow, so not be in trouble for it. Wow.
That's right. Then they push it down onto the provinces. And because healthcare in Canada is a provincial jurisdiction, according to our constitution, they said now the provinces can, get this whole thing going. And that's what we've seen. So the province where I live, British Columbia, they just attacked this with an alacrity, with an enthusiasm. And, I now, look, I'm not a doctor or a nurse.
Okay.
I'm a patient.
All right.
I'm a cancer survivor.
Okay.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah.
And, so I was a patient at the Delta Hospice Society going through my cancer journey. And when I got to good health, I joined the board of directors. Just at the time when they were pushing MAID down onto everybody who gets public money.
Okay, right? So any company that gets public money.
Well, it's a public healthcare system. Okay. Everybody gets public money.
So everyone's on it.
Everybody's getting public money. Right?
So it's everybody.
It's everybody.
Wow.
So we did have a public-private partnership with the Fraser Health Authority.
Okay.
And we were told in our hospice. So I became the president of the Delta Hospice Society. And we were told, because we had a hospice that we operated, a facility that we actually built. We fundraised $8 million. We built it. We got a land lease for 35 years. We built those buildings on it. We were told that if we want money, we're going to have to start killing our patients. And we said, well, we're not killing our patients. We're palliative care. We don't do that.
Right. The whole point is to just ease the suffering as they go through this experience.
Live well.
Life, yeah.
Until your natural end, which we can help you with.
Yeah.
Right? And so they said, well, you're not getting any more money. And we said, that's fine. We don't want your money and we don't need your money.
Wow, okay.
Right? So we're sitting on this land with our buildings. So we had 25 years left on that land lease. So as soon as we started to resist and be defiant, not get into lockstep, they canceled that lease with 25 years left.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
They evicted us from our buildings, took our money away, and basically took our facility from us, kicked us off the land, and expropriated those buildings, $8.5 million worth, to the government. So the government walked in, started to operate our hospice with us gone, and provide euthanasia there.
That is absolutely outrageous, and it does fit into this model we're seeing where they will shut down a bank account. They go against the lease that's been signed. What good is a lease if it doesn't, protect the property and you've invested that funding and money in there knowing you're going to be there for a period of time, and all just because you're like, we're not going to offer death as one of the options in our hospice.
That's right. So you are now compelled. You see, and this kind of MAID, right, is conquest and then compel. That's the dance. That's the modus operandi that they're using, and that's going to be facilitated by the court system, by the judiciary.
Yeah.
Right? And all of our courts and our judges are appointed in Canada, appointed by the government.
Yeah. And so the government is controlling the whole thing. And where does the media come into this? Why is the media not pushing back? I mean, because, I know here we have pharmaceutical control of our media, so we'd be kind of screwed here, but you don't have that in Canada.
No, we have government control of our media. The government gives the media billions of dollars. So basically it's, I joke, kind of not really, that is like Soviet-style Pravda.
Yeah.
That's our media.
So none of the television stations, they all get government funding?
They all get money, but particularly the CBC.
Yeah.
That's the state media outlet, and they get money, right? And of course, we have never been able to get our message onto the legacy media, into the mainstream media. It's all very pro-MAID. So people don't really even know how bad it is out there.
Well, what if an institution, say, is like a Catholic institution or has a religious belief around it, just doesn't believe in suicide? Do you not have a right to exercise a religious belief?
Well, yes, in the moment. But again, right, so they're compelling everybody to kill patients. And the last bastion that we have, truly in Canada, to protect authentic palliative care is through the faith-based organizations, Catholic Health Care, for example.
Yeah.
But now we see there's court cases against, in British Columbia, against Catholic Health Care to force them to provide euthanasia to their, right? So in a sense, it's going to destroy religious liberty in Canada. But, like everybody's equal, but, some people are more equal than others.
Yeah.
So now it becomes a constitutional argument that that's going to supersede. The right for the state to kill its citizens will supersede religious liberty in Canada.
It's so crazy. I mean, like the fervor around it, like just who cares? All right. If you're nuts enough to want to be, allowing people to kill their patients, okay, you've gotten away with that. But why go out?
She pretty much nails it on the head. Now, this is a woman of deep faith. And most people that go through circumstances where they're nearing the end of their life, like she was with cancer, they find God, they find religion, they find faith, and it's been proven. Just like laughter, they say, is the best medicine, so is faith. Faith has the power to heal. The belief system, now of course there's a lot of science to it, so you can think, outside, you can think spiritual, you can think that there was a help from a greater being, an entity. Science is caught because they do know that the power of belief, the power of the brain, is truly incredible. But what they can't answer is how the brain heals itself. So even science is caught in a conundrum. This is the same thing that they're doing to churches with the abortion. You will abide and you will give up all beliefs against ours, if you do not believe what we say, because we are a socialist society, we're not democratic people, we're not. You only get one vote federally and one vote provincially. The rest is all appointed. We do not have a democracy. It's fictitious. It doesn't exist. And now you have a party who, from outside sources, the cabal, have found every which way to manipulate the system. And in doing so, religion is one of the greatest barriers that they have to smother and destroy. And they're using laws. And these laws, and she nailed it, and I talk about this often, there is no reason that we should ever appoint a judge or even head of police or RCMP. We had the technology 40 years ago to figure out how to do this. We had the smarts and we had the people. Now we're even further ahead. We have the technology that this can all be figured out mathematically. Good judges are judges that coast the line right down the middle and follow the Constitution to the T. This can be figured out with algorithms on computer, and now throw AI in there. Solved. The government we have doesn't care about you. They don't care. It's cheaper for them to just coax you into letting your life go. And now, remember, I'm not against the actual idea. The principle in general is it's freedom. And if you're in the right mind and you want to, that's your choice. The problem being is that the last statistics that have come out are showing that it started off fairly innocently, and there were a lot of people that were trapped within it, and they fell through kind of fell through the bars and did it, so they weren't really on the stats. But all of a sudden, by the second year, halfway through the second year, a lot of people were coming out about how they were pressured to do it. And then by the end of that second year, beginning of the third year, more stories were coming out. And again, previous episodes, because I would report on these every now and then, I would throw them out there. In fact, there are two people in the video leading up to this that I actually ran their stories before this interview happened. It's the care. It's the complete societal breakdown. You got to remember, we have the worst social healthcare system on the planet. We rank so far down, and even that is a lie. I think we were 47th the last time I looked. It's a lie because the stats are given from the government. So the government is even lying about the stats. And you're going to see that on this next interview I'm going to show you. So let's just take a peek here.
What's really troubling about that, and nobody seems to know this, so I'd love the opportunity to talk about it because it's really concerning to me. So it's not only that it's MAID, people don't understand how MAID works. There's the track 1, the track 2, the immediate, the 90-day to end of life, and all of that. And yes, they stayed the bill till 2027 to the next vote, right? So that's all great. So technically mental health's not included. But what I found out yesterday that really, really bothered me was the mechanism of the actual procedure. So there's this drug called sodium ferropental, and it's made in Italy, okay? So it's used by anesthesiologists. And the anesthesiologist that came forward with this at this testimony was, this individual had been an anesthesiologist for 25 years. He came forward with the Senate subcommittee talking about this with MAID and his concerns with it, because MAID is being seen as compassionate and empathetic in care. So what he did is...
the Nazi euthanasia program started with compassion and care, right?
I'm so glad you said that, because when I got to do trigonometry, we went to the war museums, and what terrified me the most was walking through the World War II portion and seeing the same verbiage.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, definitely.
People were telling me I was going crazy. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No, it's the same thing.
It's identical.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Now, I study history, and the Nazis played a large role in my history. And for those of you who are new subscribers, it's Christopher Freeland's family, ancestors, who were the main culprits in creating the fear, hate, and division that removed a whole pile of my family from the face of the planet. And thankfully, my great-grandparents made it out alive. These are the history, these are the parts of my ancestry that have made me dive so deep into the darkest parts of history and study propaganda. Propaganda is the strongest arm of any totalitarian government. Socialism, communism, fascism. This entire, and she's absolutely correct, it isn't, like I said in the beginning of this episode, the government didn't do the right thing by granting freedoms. It did the wrong thing. It used what people thought were a freedom against them. The same exact tactics that the Nazis pulled. Now, of course, I'm going to get censored hardcore. I get censored all the time. So I need you to like, share, and subscribe to help me get the truth out. Sorry, so sorry. Just the facts. Just the truth. This is, I did a previous episode, and of course, if you're a new viewer, I urge you to tour and check out my episodes, where I literally used a lady who's passed away now. She was a survivor of the Holocaust, and she goes right through the list of every single thing, warning the next societies, warning. She toured Canada, she toured this, she toured all over the world. The telltale signs of how when you know you're going to repeat the past, and when that style of government, when that totalitarian government is starting to take control. And this was one of them. And I believe she said it, I think I have to look back, but I think it was like number 6. And I compared it to everything the Liberal Party was doing. And goddamn, it's the exact same thing. Those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And we're going to tie later into this episode onto one of the final things that the government did before it started, well, disappearing people. Let's get back on with this interview.
Yeah, the mentally ill, the people that are, yeah. So what's
people
really...
too distressed to live.
Thank you.
Right, and the categories keep expanding.
And that's what we're seeing, the expansion. So the sodium thiopental, which was really wild about it, is this anesthesiologist was like, it's going missing. We don't have a lot of it. We can't get it anymore all of a sudden over this past couple of years. And so he started researching it. Well, it's made in Italy, and Italy falls under the EU. And under the EU laws, you can never make a drug that is going to be used for execution. But Canada, in North America, the United States and Canada had been using it for execution, in America for death penalty. So they finally caught on to that. And anesthesiologists use it as one of the first drugs pushed to put you under. But here's what's really crazy is they said, well, there's got to be more to this. So they did it's a Freedom of Information Act with the NPR, with a journalist, and they got over 300 autopsies of individuals who were executed in America. And they didn't just get the autopsy kind of overview, they were given in-depth files. And when they went through them, 85% of those bodies showed a 2 times level increase of water in the lungs. So what was happening is when this drug is pushed, it causes a drowning, and it's stated as akin to dying by waterboarding or drowning. Meaning, the reason people in Canada who are given MAID seem peaceful is because they're giving a paralytic first. So they're completely paralyzed, then this drug is administered as one of the 4, and they start drowning to death. Okay? So that means that when it's done by IV...
Out there, I've witnessed this. One of the bravest, strongest people I've ever known was suffering hardcore, and he went through with the MAID program. And by his side, I heard the telltale signs of exactly what she was saying. Now, studying first aid, and going a lot deeper than most people do on first aid. I carry my own suture kit and the rest of it. I knew something wasn't up. And it was right afterwards I started doing some research. And I had heard some nasty things, but again, I didn't have time. But once I was triggered and figured, okay, something wasn't right, I looked into it. And everything she's saying is true.
It takes 10 to 15 minutes. That person could be literally drowning. Well, they're drowning to death, but they could be screaming if they weren't under a paralytic. They're drowning to death. We waterboarded people in Guantanamo. There's a reason we had to stop. It falls under cruel and unusual punishment. Yet we are having people like dying with dignity say that this falls under compassion and empathy. When you're drowning people chemically to death.
You found this out at the Senate hearing?
No, I found this out yesterday when the Senate hearing was given to me and the transcripts were given to me. It was Dr. Joel B. Zivok, Associate Professor of Emory University and School of Medicine, the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority. So what's been happening is that case I was telling you about, Fraser Health is withholding the families. They can't see her autopsy. They're not allowing it. They won't give access. The police have tried to get it.
This is the same case.
This is the same case, yeah. So they will not give it to the family.
Now, the thing that person has to really understand with this is that there are, to my knowledge, and I'm not a doctor or a pharmacist, but I can tell you that there are 25 different pills that I know a person can take that you would end it a lot more peacefully and probably a lot cheaper than what the government's paying for. So this goes into something that now I've also been trying to research and I'm having a hard time finding. But we do know that Trudeau had more visits and links with pharmaceutical companies than any other prime minister in our history. In his first year, over 400 different pharmaceutical lobbyists and personal people who were involved in it had his attention. 400, think about that. Now, I'm not even going to go to the Wuhan part because everybody knows about that. That'll be later when I kind of finally get some serious hardcore, I'll probably end up doing one on Rumble and that'll go, and then you'll have to be a member if you're not on Rumble on YouTube in order to watch them. So that'll be in the future, but we will deal with that. But I do believe, from what I've been seeing so far, and now there's no proof, so we'll call this my hypothetical part of it, but I do believe that the government is literally in cahoots, and this is more taxpayer dollars being wasted, lubricating the palms of lobbyists and people who help get these parties elected. Evil. Pure evil. There's no reason to be doing this to a person when they want to end their own life. So it's disgusting.
So Fraser Health is like literally lying and holding information back. So what's wild about this, though, is Dying with Dignity says that this is a painless death. Well, if you take MAID orally, it takes between 30 minutes to 24 hours. 24 hours of active drowning while you're under a paralytic. So the autopsies are showing that you actually drowned to death and you're waterboarded to death within your own body and you can't move or do anything about it. And that's how Dying with Dignity in the Canadian government has disguised MAID, while they're offering it to Canadian veterans instead of treatment, so they don't have to pay for their pensions, so they don't have to pay for their health care, the same way they don't have to do with their elders.
That's part of the slippery slope,
of course
isn't
it
it?
is.
Because it makes such... Well, I saw...
So that's the only part of this interview that I did a little bit of research on, and there were cases where people didn't react to the last part of the medications, and the people administrating were caught because they didn't know the dosages or what to do in order to do it quicker. But it's a very, very rare case. So I want to correct that, because she does allow that to seem like it's a normalcy. That it's not. And I would have hoped that she would have corrected that. But I think engaged in the moment, and she's dealing with, because this is already an older interview, she's dealing with the fresh information, and we know a lot more now about it. This was done on the 6th of May of 2024. There still are cases. I read of a couple where it was like 7 hours. But on average, it's like between 30 minutes and an hour 15-ish. So most people still within that time, if you think about how long you can hold your breath or how much water you can breathe in and out before you pass away, she's still correct in that statement. The finalized couple injections may not be the ones that actually do it. Most people, from what the studies are showing, drowned.
The other day, now a month ago probably, I think it was a Japanese philosopher who said that it was incumbent on the elderly to submit themselves to government-assisted dying because of the benefits on the cost-saving side.
So in this is one of my favorite ones. I love this one because most people don't know this. So in 2021, they had a gross reduction in healthcare of $109.2 million. When they did MAID, they cut out another $22 million. So by the end of it all, in that year, the healthcare system, just from doing MAID instead of actually giving people palliative care, was $86.9 million alone. That's just 1 year without the spike. In 2021, it was 10,500. 2022, it's 13,000. And there's been a 30% increase since then. And a high rate is happening in British Columbia. High cost of living, nowhere to live, no housing, and no one to look after these people because the younger individuals just don't have the finances because they can't even buy their own home. So how could they then put somebody in care that costs $8,000 to $10,000 a month when you can't even afford to live in a 2-bedroom basement apartment? And furthermore, there's no housing because we're taking every single person into this country and acting as if Canadians are second citizens, because that's what's happening. Canada is falling. We have no identity. We're killing our own citizens. And people act like people like me are going crazy. I'm not going crazy. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. We are killing innocent people, and children are on the they are on the chopping block.
Now, I urge you, this is Jordan Peterson. I'm a huge fan. He's just another one of the probably brightest minds Canada has produced, who has fled the country from not only political persecution from this new Liberal Party, but also watching and knowing that he can't fix a society with the propaganda, the corruption in schools, and the government all working hand in hand in such a socialist, fascist ideal. Gads adds another one. He's going to be gone here right away. He's already he's already taken leave. Amongst numerous others. Great minds are fleeing our country because of socialism. This happened before in history, not long ago. My grandfather fought against it. I'm sure a lot of the people who are watching had family members who either perished or came home never to be the same again, fighting that evil. This is reoccurring. Now, I'm going to tie in the second part of kind of where fascism leads. And it goes with what I was saying on that previous episode was being taught. And for some reason, nobody's paying attention. Now, I know schools don't teach it anymore. In fact, there are even schools that won't even say Holocaust. It's disgusting. But this is where we're at. This is why I need you to like, share, and subscribe. This was one of the biggest steps that she warned against. That when they come for your guns, buy more or run.
The article here from Blacklock's reporter saying that the federal government has put a gun buyback program at $340, let's say $3 million, so a little over a third of $1 billion. Everything the federal government has said about any of their gun legislation has been wrong, particularly when it comes to cost estimates. They said it would cost $60 million, then it ballooned, and then it ballooned, and then it ballooned. And here is the most important part of all of this, is that the numbers they are relying on to pin this down at $343 million are 13 years out of date.
Did you get that? So not only are they out because it was supposed to only cost $7 million in the beginning, then okay, well maybe 14, and then okay, now it's 20. Well, okay, now it's at 342 million. These are still all budgeted out on outdated data. This was released yesterday, people.
And so in the last 13 years, people have purchased AR-15s. Now they know about those, but there are a lot of guns that went directly from non-restricted, as in non-tracked. The government doesn't know who has them, doesn't know if you have them, doesn't know who sold them to you, because they've never been a problem until Justin Trudeau decided they were a problem. They have gone from regular, unregistered, non-restricted firearms right across to prohibited. And that happened to thousands of models. And so when you have no clue how many of these things are in the country, how do you even pin down a cost estimate? They're just making it up as they go. This is going to cost over $1 billion.
Well,
I would suggest $2-3 billion at the very least. And then you've got policing put into this. What would you rather have, Canadians? Hospitals? How about more cops on the streets to deal with the actual bad guys than to come along and take a fancy Brazilian 410, which I wouldn't use to shoot a duck. It's not high powered enough, from the hands of a collector, which is what...
Sheila. It's a Rebel News. They're awesome. She's absolutely right. Using a 410 on a duck. It ain't big enough. Not even close. I mean, you want to do it humane, you want to do it quick, yeah, and you don't want to miss and have a wounded animal. And these are all the things that these fascists, they don't understand. But they've got the propaganda arm, convincing Canadians, convincing people who have no idea that for some reason, if you if I paint my gun black, it's now an assault weapon. We haven't had assault weapons in Canada in over 40 years, people. They're not allowed. And in order for me to have my gun and maintain my gun license, I am one of the safest individuals you could possibly want to have as a neighbor. I go through you name it, man. Like, you're checked for criminal record, psychological record, every single aspect of your life. You got to do safety courses up the yin yang. You got to understand classification. There's like major education. We're better trained than most military are, and we're probably looked upon more stringently than most military are. It's ridiculous. The whole gun buyback is the biggest lie, scam. It's the same thing that the Nazis did. Almost word for word. The good news on that note, though, is hopefully we might actually win in court, because good old CCFR.
The CCFR filed an application for leave to appeal our case to the Supreme Court of Canada. And we put a lot of really careful thought into this application. We're hoping the court sees how important our case is and how it's relevant to the public interest, because that's a big part of it. Now, obviously, there are no guarantees that they'll grant our application, but we believe that there's a chance that it will be heard. And at the same time, we also believe that giving up isn't an option. So there's a couple of factors there. So what this process looks like is it should take around 3 to 5 months, let's say, to determine whether or not they're going to take the case, and then another 5 to 8 months to complete the process. So somewhere around a year, probably not less than a year. But again, no guarantee will be accepted or win. Though, keep this in mind. Every case that they hear at the Supreme Court was a case that was lost in the lower court. It was lost at the Court of Appeals as well. So you never know. But as I said, we're just going to keep fighting anyway. So also, in case you're not aware, the CCFR was the 6th largest third-party advertiser in the 2025 federal election in Canada. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this. After the final audit, we'll probably be in 4th place. We did more than almost every public sector union did in Canada. Can you imagine? The gun lobby has finally gotten into that position. You know, gun owners have always talked about that one big group. I was one of those people too. And here we are. But I think facts are important, and we didn't do this by ourselves. It's because the community supports our work, the community supports our vision, and the community trusts us. And we work relentlessly in return for that trust. That's why this relationship works. Anyway, before I wrap up, we have other big projects coming out soon.
So thank you so much, Rod, and the CCFR for being in a place to pool our money for us to donate. And if you're a part of the gun, well, if you're Canadian and you got a gun in your closet, like pretty much any old school Canadian, any rural Canadian pretty much that I've ever met has, throw them a couple bucks. Now, they're dealing with a fascist Supreme Court, and we've known this. It's mostly liberal, and look at what they've done. Look at the rights they've taken. You don't even have the right to defend yourself. If Buddy brings a knife, you can only use a knife the same size or smaller. That don't matter if you're 3'2" or 7'8". You're not allowed to use any weapon larger than they deem. So even if a guy was 7 foot tall and he had a smaller knife and he ended up protecting himself and ending the actual bad guy, the judges would see his size and say, "Oh, no, sorry, you're going to jail." That's the stupidity of what the laws in Canada have come to. These are the same exact steps that happened in Germany. So while all of this chaos is going on, where is the CRTC regulated media when they should be there? So this is the taxpayers' ombudsman. He's presenting his annual report. And he talks about how the CRA is in shambles. They can't get shit done, misappropriated money, didn't pay people correctly, have like filed things wrong. It's complete shambles. Now I play it for you, but it's really long. But instead, I'm just gonna play all of the really inquisitive questions that our amazing state-fund media had for something so huge that pertains to Canadians, that every single working Canadian wants to know. Where is our media? Let's hear their questions.
Thank you for listening, and I remain at your disposal in the official language of your choice for any question you may have now or further along the day or during the next few days.
We have an attendee online. I don't know if you have a question. Anusha Khan from Law 360. Can you hear us? Oh, is that... If you can unmute, we will be able to hear you. Well, I guess Anusha, you don't have any question for us.
Do you want me to try with this? No.
So, merci d'avoir été là. Merci, félicitations pour votre mandat. Et puis, moi, je suis convaincue que vous aurez des appels par la suite.
C'est à
Je suis pas inquiète. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Merci.
Je pense que c'est vraiment ça, M. Boileau, c'est une question de
Oui. Oui.
He's actually in shock. He just literally threw bomb after bomb after bomb about how horrible the CRA has become under this Liberal government. All of the mistakes, the mismanagement, misappropriation of funds. He was expecting, look at his water. He was expecting some serious questions. Because if we had real reporters, they would be there. If I had government, like, if I was big enough, I'd be there. I couldn't get in the room because I'm not part of the CRTC, part of the state-funded media. This is Canada. Like, he's in shock. Welcome to Canada. And now, this is, it's hilarious, but yet, it's sad, but yet it's horrible. It's every emotion you could possibly think of. Enjoy.
A video from KI First Nation is getting a lot of attention on social media. It shows band councillor Sam McKay burning Ring of Fire paperwork, which the video claims the Ontario government airdropped into the community.
I'm not going to send these boxes back at my cost. I didn't ask them. They weren't invited to deliver them here, and I felt that that they wouldn't be coming back even if we asked them to come back and pick them up. And we felt that we needed to act immediately. We're not accepting this report, this assessment report.
They just invented drive-by consultation. More like flyby. They sent it in a plane. No representatives. No nothing. And you see the pile of paperwork?
To it, we never participated in it. We're not part of it, so we're destroying it.
KI is one of many First Nations standing against the Ford government's Bill 5. The community on Big Trout Lake has long held the position that it won't take part in any process involving Ring of Fire development, including a planned access road. McKay says the documents were dropped off at the KI airport and were destroyed without being read. He says the only other communication from the government has been a form letter signed by Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford. McKay says his community won't join any negotiation table unless it's as an equal.
It's always one-sided. It's always the government and the industry's side with no regard to First Nations. And until they're prepared to do that, KI doesn't want to have anything to do with it. We don't support Ring of Fire. We don't support Access Road. We just don't want to have anything to do with it. Until they're ready to do things properly, equal partners with the First Nations.
Rickford's office did not respond to request for comment.
Flyby consultation. But that's okay, that's nothing. Because Carney, he's going on telling everybody how he talked to, you know, all these Indigenous groups and just wait. You thought it was bad when Trudeau pissed off the natives. Oh yeah. You guys got a summer coming like you've never seen. Carney's consultation is a even worse than Ford's flyby consultation, because he's pissed off at least 90% of the chiefs and tribal nations in Canada, and I'm actually tickled right pink that at least they're gonna do something, because media has got, like, even the conservative end of it. I'm flabbergasted. Okay, they put a few amendments in there. This is all in hopes that the Liberal Party fails, and they were afraid that if they didn't vote for it, that's gonna cost them an election. You know, probably give the Liberals a majority. This is our system. This is how broke Canada is. And the worst part about it is the Conservatives are right. If they didn't vote it in, the media would use it against the Conservatives instead of telling the truth, like they're doing right now about the bill. They're not being honest. Every media outlet should be screaming at the top of their lungs. In fact, they should have been, well, obviously, after Trudeau's first term, we shouldn't have been in. We should have had a completely different construct of what's going on in the political parties. But this is chaos. This is welcome to socialism, people, and a system that's set up to punish the people. It's just ridiculous. Our whole society is crumbling. It's just falling apart. But I'm going to give kudos to not this guy.
A time when Canada should be expanding
although
energy production.
He does a
the Liberals
perfect
are using
lead
their
in.
anti-energy laws to stop pipeline construction. Companies who've wanted to build haven't because of these laws. For 10 years now, this government has driven away investments and stranded our energy sector. It is time for anti-energy laws like C-69, the shipping ban, and the job-killing industrial carbon tax to go. If the Liberal government really wants to see energy projects built, will they finally do the right thing for Canadians and repeal their anti-energy laws?
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, what this government will do is present the One Canadian Economy Bill to rapidly advance projects of national interest and build one Canadian economy, not 13. The bill will grow our economy and support our sovereignty to ensure we build the strongest economy in the G7. I hope our colleagues across the aisle will support us.
The Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker.
This gentleman, he deserves an award for just pure honesty. And the media should be showing this. Canadians need to see this. This is something I've been talking about for years. And now that I have my channel, I talk about often. The East likes blood oil.
This week, Canada hosted the G7, and one of the people on the Prime Minister's invitation list was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia currently has a sweetheart deal with Canada, shipping over $2 billion worth of Saudi oil a year to our Canadian East Coast. Alberta oil shipped to the same place would face extremely onerous reporting requirements on upstream and downstream emissions, yet no such requirements exist for Saudi oil. Why?
Oh yeah. Best part. Watch the ministers. Who's going to answer that question? You answer that question. No, I'm not asking. You answer that question. I ain't answering that question. Look at them. They're fighting over who's going to answer it.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to support our conventional and renewable energy business by getting the One Canadian Canada Act passed. It will grow our conventional economy. It will grow our conventional energy business. It will grow our renewable business. We hope our colleagues across the aisle will get on board.
The honourable member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, I'll note that the Liberal members seem incapable of using the word pipeline or oil in the House of Commons. Let me keep this simple. It is a fact that the emissions reporting requirement on Saudi oil being sold in Canada is less stringent than for Canadian oil being sold in Canada. Who in this Liberal government wants to stand now to defend this incomprehensible policy?
They can't make up their mind. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Now, this is a waste of skin, this man. He's from Saskatchewan. He's an NDPer who switched to the Liberal Party. He was NDP provincial. Now he's Liberal federal. This man is the reason the Indigenous, it's people like him that are the reason the Indigenous are in the strife and heartache they are in. And all you have to do is listen to his mouth.
Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
We support oil and the development of all energy options across this great country, but we also support the Indigenous community, Mr. Speaker, because we realize as a country we must engage the Indigenous community, for even for them, this is a journey of economic and social justice. The benefits of anything we do, oil or gas or development that engages the Indigenous people, will be long-lasting, Mr. Speaker. We must reach all the people of our great country, including the Indigenous community, in every corner of our country.
What did that question have to do with anything Indigenous? This is the Liberal Party. That might as well be Chavez. That's the black woman who, if you watch previous episodes, I showed you, pretty much came out and told Trudeau to F himself because he was using her color, her ethnicity, for his political gain in passing laws and legislations that were completely insane and obtuse. That's who these people are, most of them. He is an idiot. Full-fledged, 100% embarrassment. But he ain't done.
Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's #1 export is oil. It's a source of our prosperity and provides for healthcare, infrastructure, and good-paying jobs. Yet 10 years of Liberal anti-energy laws have kept pipelines from being built and kept us dependent upon the U.S. markets. Laws like C-69, no new pipelines, C-48, the shipping ban, the energy production cap, the industrial carbon tax. Energy companies won't build because of these laws. When will the Liberals finally end their war on Canadian energy and jobs?
Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, the problem with the Conservatives is half of them don't like Poilievre, the other half like Poilievre, and the other half can't count.
Yeah. He actually said that. And he thinks he's funny.
The problem, Mr. Speaker,
for children.
The honourable member can rewind a little bit if he wants.
Canada is the third largest oil-producing country in the world. That is something that we should be proud of. And back from Saskatchewan, where I come from, we have a phrase, lead, follow, or get out the way. These guys can't lead. They're too arrogant to follow, so at least get off the way.
There's the man who's part of the party that shut down the entire resource sector.
The honourable...
That's how completely detached from reality Saskatchewan should just be embarrassed. In fact, as somebody who lives in Saskatchewan for half the year, I'm telling you, I'm thoroughly embarrassed. It was bad enough that we elected a Liberal up there. We knew it was going to happen because of propaganda, but like that guy, are you serious? Nobody's probably ever seen him in Saskatchewan Parliament. The guy is an absolute embarrassment. Disgusting. Well, you guys, I'm already 7 minutes over here. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please do make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Help me grow the channel. I'm going to be getting censored hardcore on this one. I touched on some pretty sensitive topics. Yeah, and if you are subscribed, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Check out the clothing line. I'm still waiting to get back. I think my decals, digital decals might be... Well, the software I'm using is pretty impressive, so they're probably trying to make sure that they can print them off to the quality that I'm setting them. But check it out. I still have some other great apparel that's already out there ready to go. It's a great way to support the channel. If not, you can always donate. My email account is running across the bottom. I know Canada's broke. I know everybody's broke. I'm broke. We're all broke. And we got another how many years of this crap going on. Life is horrible in Canada. Until the next time, you guys, I'm Alias the Guy. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.